Openmike, and my guest today is Mr. Horace Walters, who's been a long-standing friend of mine for many years and is well known to St. Lucia based on his attachment to the fishing industry. There are some concerns which I have for some time now in respect to the fishing industry in St. Lucia, hence my reason for asking Horace to join me today. Before I start off, I will just let Horace introduce himself to you, showing his credentials as to why he has been in that job and why he was chosen to do that job by past governments. Horace.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be your guest. Well, my name is Horace Walters. I have an MBE and I have 2 degrees. I'm waiting for the 3rd, which is an RIP. But my first degree is in business administration, which I got from the St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia, Canada. I majored in developing countries economics. I did a lot of work in behavioral sciences because I had to deal with the fishermen, the fishing community, and at that time you needed to know how to deal with people. Behavioral sciences particularly are related to applied psychology, so that was important to me. And 10 years later I went to the London School of Economics and undertook a master's in CU's law, economics and policy making. So I did receive an MSc economics from London School of Economics and political science.
Fantastic. Good. Now, Horace, over the years, a number of fishing complexes have been constructed, and the general perception of all these complexes are viewed with some form of skepticism. The reason being these complexes tend to detract from the beauty of the towns and villages. Do you share that view?
Not really. When we planned fisheries development many years ago, there was a need, an identified need to establish facilities. And you will recall that we used the traditional Carib canoe, and those were not very difficult to pull up on the beaches and the rocks and the like. But as our production started to increase, and we recognized that we were in a geographical region where whether we took the fish or not, they would keep on going, we thought it was important that we try to capitalize on our increase in production. So we started looking at partnering with the government of Canada, and the Canadian government were the first to build us a fisheries complex in Castries. But at the same time, recognizing that we were establishing major cold storage capacity, there was a need to find a suitable platform which would allow the fishing community greater safety at sea. We did lose many fishermen using the canoe. They would sink and they would drown. So it was important to identify a suitable fishing platform. So we picked up the Martinique fiberglass pirogue. That allowed the fishermen safety at sea, greater carrying capacity, and adaptability to the use of improved fishing gear methods, and of course staying out for longer periods. Now, with the fisheries complex established and a guaranteed market provided and a guaranteed price, the fisherman didn't have to rush back in to sell his fish at 3 o'clock. He could stay till 6 and the market would be available.
And without cutting you short, has that practice been implemented based on what you tell me?
Yes.
It does remain open?
Yes.
What time do you all close?
Well, the fishing complex in Castries, although it's a facility, it is not the major buyer in Castries.
What time does it close?
I think they close at 5 or 6, somewhere around there. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
In Vieux-Fort, the fishermen can sell up to much later than that. And
well, how late?
I think around 6. But even if they come late, there's ice provided outside to store the fish until tomorrow.
Until what time?
There's ice.
Anytime.
There's ice. Yes.
But
there's
don't you
ice
think
provided.
if we have built those complexes for the purpose of assisting the fishermen, that it's ridiculous to close the place at 5 o'clock, because you could leave 1 or 2 persons with a key to be able to accommodate the fishermen. Because the reason why I make that point, because for some time now has been my concern, where you have fishermen selling fish along the road, and that's not very hygienic in my opinion. Added to the fact that you have a vast amount of, should I say, pollution going into Castries Harbour on a daily basis, and it doesn't lend itself well as a tourist attraction, even for us locally, to see individuals on the side of the road. And I'm saying, if this practice is to continue, and evidently there is no will to stop it, that at least something nicer should be built temporarily. Because when you're dealing with fish, especially a man has been out, say, for 6-7 hours on an evening, to put fish on a wooden tray alongside a road, it does not augur well. What is your take on that?
Well, again, it is, the fisheries complex is expected to provide a guaranteed market.
Yeah.
And the times of opening, I am not sure. I mean, I left government many, many years ago, so I'm not sure as to the time that they stay open. But the fact that you can sell your fish to the facility and get rid of it, and this is one thing we talked about.
It is a plus.
We talked about that many, many years ago, getting rid of it, because the producer should not be going and selling pound by pound.
Correct.
And I think the fisherman doesn't really do that. It's maybe somebody selling on his behalf.
Okay.
Who's going by the roadside.
Okay.
And the fisherman goes home, he sees about his engine and his fuel for tomorrow. So you'll find that somebody who represents him is selling along the roadside. But again, you have the town and village councils who are responsible for the streets and selling along the streets.
And they're the ones who take the less reaction.
And in the communities where we have fisheries facilities, there are markets, there are stalls.
Yeah.
So you can sell from a stall, and you can use ice on those stalls to keep your fish over an extended period.
Horace, apart from all of that, I have been going around the complexes for some time now, and what I notice is there's, as new as some of the complexes are, for instance, I even take Viewfort for the example, it amazes me that with such a wonderful complex, that people still seem to deal with the fish on a haphazard basis, with old practices, cutting fish on the concrete, cutting it, when in fact there are nice stalls there. Shouldn't there be some sort of a manager to implement some sort of discipline? And because remember, old habits die hard. And a fisherman who's been doing something for the last 25, 30 years, it may be difficult for him to change, but by the same token, there should be a heavy hand at those complexes, encouraging those guys, explain to them the importance, bring their fish in, wash it properly, and have the place relatively clean. I see fellas cutting fish on the side in Viewfort at most of the complexes. But you feel that that's the responsibility of the village council?
If we're going to talk about Viewfort or any of the facilities, what you find is that the fisherman would arrive with his catch, and it is either earmarked in Viewfort to be sold to the fisheries facility, the complex, or the owner would take his fish into his vehicle and go where he has a market for it. But somewhere...
And they're free to do that.
Oh yeah, yes. Somewhere along the line, you will find people wanting to buy fish directly from the boat.
Yeah.
And along that wharf, you have people who have established their stalls, their stalls. And I did this not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. I bought fish at Viewfort, and somebody's there with water, and he has a chopping board, a clean piece of compressed plastic, and he's doing his work cleaning. He's doing his work cleaning and cutting up. But from time to time, you get the odd straggler who's acting out of character.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that it is widespread anymore like in the past, because people have come to grips with the need to ensure that quality assurance is upheld.
Yeah.
So I think we have fairly good quality fish coming out.
Now, Horace, another, going back still to the fishing side of things, you did explain it to me earlier. The fishing crafts that they use today, would you say they are in keeping with advanced fishing standards, or is there room for improvement by way of better boats coming on stream?
Well, again, you have to go back into time where we came from with the Carib canoe. We had over 600 canoes many, many years ago. And as we moved from the canoe and the transition came into the fiberglass pirogue, we have a couple hundred pirogues on the water now. So you do have better quality assurance and quality control at sea.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come in with the catch, the fish is much better preserved. As they sell or as they dispose of their catches, then you talk about satisfying a basic need with that platform. But if you're talking about catching more fish, we're not talking about a trawler. We're talking about a vessel that's going to go fishing for what we have. We have migratory pelagics, the dolphin, the kingfish, the tuna, and we have the demersals, the bottom fish. But 80 to 90% of our production is from the migratory pelagic. So we need to be at sea, in the deep, catching those large fish. You can do it from the pirogue, which is a day boat, but if you're going to stay a few days at sea, you need a vessel that can accommodate the crew.
So what you would recommend that they need to revisit that part of the industry at some time?
Although you need to revisit it, it is not very easy for the individual fisherman to buy a large vessel. You're talking about $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 at a time.
Horace, we've come to the end of the first segment of our program. We'll be right back.